The final example that I have for this section is areas of sectors. What is a sector? This is an illustration of a sector. So you have some angle in some circle of some radius r, and the sector is kind of like the region that's subtended by the angle. Instead of the arc length, it's all the stuff inside the angle. Right? That's what's called a sector. Well, this is just some proportion of the area of the circle. And the area of the circle is pi radius squared. So it's some fraction of that. Right? So the area of a sector is a fraction of the area of the whole circle. Obviously, if your sector covers 1/3 of the circle, then the area is going to be 1/3 the area of the circle. If the sector is 1/4 of a circle, then the area of the sector will be 1/4 of the area of the whole circle. And that's what this formula is based on. So the fraction of the circle you have is theta over 2 pi. Remember, all the way around is 2 pi radians. And so say you had pi radians, a sector subtended by pi. So that would be half the circle, right? So that would be pi over 2 pi, 1/2. Right? If you just put radians in there and divide by 2 pi, you get the fraction of the circle. Then you have to multiply by the area of the circle, which is pi radius squared. So you can remember it this way, or you can remember the end result of the formula. It's best if you remember both ways. But the formula is area equals r squared over theta, r squared times theta over 2. What I always do is I always just say area equals, and I take the radians and divide by 2 pi, and then multiply by the area of the circle, which is pi r squared. So the A here means the area of the sector, not the area of the whole circle. Right. You can do it either way. You can do that, or you can just memorize this formula, r squared theta over 2. Remember, there's no pi in the formula. That tends to come in the angle. Okay, so that's the final formula, and you need to know that. Oops. Oh yes, the area of the sector subtended by theta is r squared theta over 2. It looks kind of weird if you don't read the whole sentence. It looks like I'm saying theta equals, but I'm not. It's the area of the sector subtended by theta. In other words, A is r squared theta over 2. So here's an example. Find the area of the sector of a circle of radius 10 centimeters subtended by angle 4 pi over 3. Well, 4 pi over 3 over 2 pi gives you how much of the circle it is, and then multiply by pi r squared. It's that simple. So that's how I always remember it. So 4 pi over 3 times 1 over 2 pi times 10 squared. Some things cancel, right? So you get 200 over 3 pi, or 200 pi over 3 if you want to write it that way. 200 thirds times pi. Now, if they want it that's in centimeters. Well, I'm sorry, centimeters squared. It's an area, right? Centimeters squared. I know it's in centimeters because it says, because the radius is given in centimeters. So it's centimeters squared because of the r squared. Or if you're using this formula, it's still, where am I? Here, it's still r squared. Theta is in radians, but there's no units here for the theta because you have radians. I can't get my pointer there. this is in radians and this is in radians, and the radians divide out. And radians is a weird thing. It's not really a unit of any kind. If you use it in a formula, you never get radians squared or radian per foot or whatever. Radians isn't a real measurement. It's a measurement, I'm sorry. It doesn't really have units. It's not actually a unit, which is a little hard to get used to. But you don't have to worry about the radians is not going to show up in your units here. You might think, oh, there's a pi there. That must be centimeters times radians, but it's not. It's just centimeters squared. Just in case somebody was confused by that, probably made them more confused. Ask me if that starts throwing you off. So it's centimeters squared. Just remember it's an area. So this is if they asked me to round it off. If they asked me for the exact answer, I would give this 200 over 3 pi. If they asked me to round it off the 2 decimal places, I'd do this. It's around 209.44 centimeters squared. Okay, that's it for that section.